everyone. After such presentation, you might not believe this, but long time ago, I was in first grade. Very long time ago, as you can imagine. And the first 2 days of school, my mother would take me by the hand and walk me to school. But as I told you, this was a long time ago. And in those days, it was perfectly fine to walk to school alone. So after the 3rd or 4th day of school, I started walking to school on my own. And here is what happened, ladies and gentlemen. A stone was thrown at me. The first day I walked to school alone. The second day I walked to school alone, another stone was thrown at me. The third day I walked to school alone, yet another stone was thrown at me. And then I noticed a boy, he was very skinny and had this angry face. And he was the one throwing stones at me. So I tried chasing him. I tried finding him in school and talking to him, but nothing really worked. 140 days of school, it was a complete torture for me. I don't remember anything. I don't remember my first grade teachers or my parents. The only thing I remember was the nightmare of the stones that were flying my way all the way to school. Now, you might ask, why did I not take a different road? Well, because he stood right in front of the school gate. So after 140 days of school, I went to the countryside, to my grandparents' house, where I mainly communicated with animals. And right after spring break, I came back to school, and walking towards the school, no stone flew to me. No one threw a stone at me. And I thought, well, maybe this is over. It looks like it's over. And that same day, my first grade teacher asked me to bring some chalk. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I really wanted to bring a chalk and show you what that is, because I'm sure that most of you have never seen one, but I couldn't find one to show you. So you can Google it after my speech. So my first grade teacher asked me to go and bring her some chalk. And I did, but I had to travel to a distant place of the school, where, ladies and gentlemen, I saw who? The skinny boy with the angry face. I gathered all my strength, walked towards him. It turned out that he's a bit shorter. Grabbed him by the shoulders, shook him really hard, and delivered the message. It was a long time ago, so I cannot cite myself, but I delivered the message that if he ever threw a stone at me again, that would be the last thing that he has done in his life. Now, interestingly, right after this incident, no more stones were thrown at me. However, I noticed something else. I noticed someone else. I noticed Lydia, the girl that for 141 days in school was sitting next to me. Not only I noticed her, but I noticed that she was not particularly happy. And although she was an A student and super smart, she was not always bringing homework to school. So I started talking to her. I invited her in my home. We played together. By the end of the school year, Lydia shared that she had never had a better friend than me in her entire life, which was not very long. We were first grade. But then I realized, and of course, I realized that later, reflecting on my early childhood experience, that caring doesn't thrive in misery. So I was in misery, and as I was in misery, I didn't notice Lydia's suffering, so I could not care. I had no space for caring. But later on the summer, Lydia and I, as we became very good friends, we were walking in the neighborhood where we both lived and studied. And we decided to go right to the end of the neighborhood in some sort of a ghetto area, where we noticed in a very bad-maintained house, to put it mildly, in the yard of that very bad-maintained house, a boy, that same boy. And right after I thought, well, our first encounters haven't been very nice, I should go and talk to him. So right before I decide to go and talk to him or call him, a female figure came outside the house. She looked like someone had just hit her, and she started yelling at the boy. So my conclusion was, of course, that caring cannot thrive in personal misery. And from the point of view of science, as we are children, our subjective experience is much defined by the important adults around us. However, as we grow up, we are fully equipped to take care of our personal experience. And then, as we grow up, living in personal misery becomes a choice rather than a circumstance. And all of us have heard of those children who have lived in horrific conditions and yet have become a caring individuals. But ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, they are exceptions. The rule is that as we grow up, we mostly take in the behaviors that we have observed and experienced in our life. But what happens as we grow up? What happens as we become adults? One of my first adult hobby was dancing salsa. And as you know, in most salsa classes, there is this big mirror in front of everyone, and people are dancing, trying to make the moves, and usually the teacher is demonstrating the move. Now, I would like to mention that my teacher was a complete grown-up, so not a first grader. I never really asked her how old she is, but it looked like she was at least 25 years old. And we were all dancing, right? And usually what happens if you're a dance teacher and people dance behind you, right? Sometimes you might want to turn around and see how they're doing. You might even correct them if they're not doing the mistakes right. So 2 years of salsa dancing, and I go to a salsa party, and it happens that there is a Cuban there, and he explains that I have learned nothing of salsa, and that maybe I'm doing some moves, maybe I'm feeling the music, but what I'm dancing is not salsa. So in 2 years, I have not learned anything. And I asked myself, how comes? How comes that with an adult teacher, I have not learned even the basic moves of salsa? Next time I went to salsa class, I noticed that my salsa teacher is looking in one point in the mirror, and that's herself. She is, I believe, the dictionary definition of someone who is full of themselves. So this night, as I went to salsa class, I realized that probably the reason why I'm not learning anything is the fact that my salsa teacher is the dictionary definition of someone who is full of themselves. That same evening, I was a teacher at the time in this school, I received an assignment from a student. And I opened it, and I read it. And my first thought was, you're not listening to what I'm teaching in class. You have not been listening for the past 6 months. I absolutely must tell you, you have not been listening to what I have been teaching in the past 6 months. So I opened the computer, and I was ready to send that email. And how many of you think I sent that email explaining that you have not been listening in the past 6 months to what I have been teaching in class? So how many of you think I sent that email? Good, I'm happy that I see some faith in teachers. I did not. I did not send that email. I was thinking about that, but I did not send that email. Instead of this, I talked to my students. Before class, in class, after school, and the next day. And so I helped her through a challenging personal situation, and I also realized that it's impossible for her to listen if she has this personal situation in her life. And this got me thinking, how comes that an adult individual, not necessarily smarter than my salsa teacher, has space in their mind and in their heart for their students? And how comes that another adult individual has no space in their mind, in their heart, in their classes for their students? And of course, I have not examined the personal history of my dance teachers. of my dance teacher, but ever since I had 10 more dance teachers, not in salsa, in oriental dances, I changed the style. And I happened to interview all 10 of them. And I will tell you what I found out. Those of them who had the most hardships in their personal and professional life were the best teachers. Actually, my current teacher graduated with straight 8 from medical university, taking care of 2 children. All the parents here, do you feel me? All right, so let me explain that again. Graduated from medical school with straight 8s, taking care of 2 children, and at the same time, every time she went to class, she would say, this is left, this is right, this is your left foot, this is your right foot. No, not the hips, right? So in her heart and in her mind, she did have space for us. So I shared 2 stories. The first one, it's about the fact, because I know that there are some parents here, that as we grow up and we develop our empathy muscles, it's pretty much defined by how much subjective misery we experience. And ladies and gentlemen, misery, it's not always objective. Misery, it's not always living in the ghetto with a male figure who is abusing a female figure. Misery, it's purely subjective. The second story demonstrated that sometimes a hard life or overcoming challenges might lead to us opening up for more caring and for more love. Now, let's look at science in an inquiry-based way. First of all, because I don't think that you would like to listen to me all day. We don't have that much time. And second of all, because science in itself, it's asking questions more than providing definite answers. So as we look at the science of evolution, it's very vast, but let's put it simple. It goes around 3 basic human drives: survive, procreate, take care of one's kin. How is that related to caring? Not only humans, but other mammals, like monkeys and chimpanzees, are genetically designed to care not only for their offspring, but also for their kin. So, we are designed to care in order to survive. We can question this, and you can do that as much as you like, but this is what the science of evolutionary psychology tells us. Now, the science of the brain, which is very much still in progress, tells us that there are certain areas of our brain which might be related to caring. And I will just briefly mention 3 of them. The first one is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for our executive functions or discipline. Now, how many of you are asking themselves, what is the relationship between discipline and caring? Some. All right, well, the relationship is the following. It turns out that the more hardship we overcome, the more space opens up to care for the others. So obviously, if we overcome more challenges, we become more caring. And then we have our favorite amygdala, a very, very small almond-sized body in our brain which takes care of emotions. Now, how are emotions related to caring? And they are in the following way. Only when we experience our emotions in totality, we can open up space and feel the other person. If there is anger stacked in us, like it was for 140 days in first grade, we don't have any emotional space for the person who is sitting right next to us. If for some reason we have emotions which we have not processed, even if they're not politically correct, we would be teaching and we would have no idea what is happening with the students behind us who maybe wish to go to a salsa party and be able to dance. This is what the science tells us, but I believe that the science poses more questions than provides answers. And then I ask, is this all about caring? Is it all about evolutionary psychology or the brain? And the answer is not. Caring, I believe, it's not a phenomenon in itself. Caring is the aroma of personal thriving. And personal thriving can only exist when we acknowledge and take care of our needs, and when we open up for new experiences, when we face our demons. So if we want to be a caring individual, we should ask ourselves, are we taking care of our needs? If the answer is no, then obviously we should do so. If the answer is yes, then we can turn to the person next to us and just see them and feel them. And I would like to leave you with this one message. You can never force an aroma from a flower. There either is the aroma or the flower, or there is not. And caring, it's not the phenomena. Caring is the aroma, is the product of personal thriving, of taking care of our needs of emotions, and being total in expressing our angers. But if you are not in first grade, don't go and shake someone. Go to a range room. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have an amazing day.